It has no brain, no heart, and no lungs. It is made almost entirely of water, and yet it has survived in Earth's oceans for hundreds of millions of years. Drifting, feeding, and reproducing without a central command. The jellyfish challenges one of our deepest assumptions about life itself, that survival requires complexity. If you could pass your hand through the water beside it, you would feel almost nothing. There's no solid weight or firm structure, only softness and a fragile kind of resistance. Beneath the surface, simple cells keep this animal running. They don't form organs in the way we know them. There is no central command center. Local signals travel through the tissue enough to contract the bell, trigger stinging cells, and sense light and gravity. It is a body built with the smallest set of tools that can still function. This simplicity is not rare or marginal. Jellyfish are found in nearly every ocean on Earth, in coastal shallows and open seas, in warm tropical waters and colder, darker regions. Some are tiny, barely larger than a fingernail. Others trail tentacles for meters into the surrounding water. They have drifted through Earth's oceans far longer than many animals we regard as advanced. Long before whales, turtles, or birds, jellyfish-like creatures were already moving with the currents. Seen this way, the question is not how they manage with so little, but what they gain by being so simple. They do not invest in heavy bodies or complex behaviors. They do not spend energy building bone or maintaining powerful muscles. They exist at the edge of what is needed to be alive in their environment. The ocean is their only support, and the real question becomes, how far can simplicity take you? From a distance, jellyfish can look like a floating lantern. Up close, its structure reveals a careful balance between almost nothing and just enough. The bell is not a solid dome, but a thin sheet of tissue stretched over a gelatinous interior called a mesoglea. This jelly-like layer is mostly water, laced with proteins and fibers that give it shape without adding much weight. There's no bone to carry, no rigid shell to grow and repair. The ocean itself provides support. Gravity still matters, but far less when the body is so close to water in density. Along the inner surface of the bell, circular muscle fibers run in gentle bands. When they contract, the bell closes slightly, pushing water out and producing a slow pulsing motion. When they relax, the bell opens again and water flows back in. Each pulse is modest, more like a soft squeeze than a powerful stroke. This movement is enough to adjust depth, rotate the body, or shift a little against the flow. It is not designed for speed or long-distance travel. The jellyfish uses motion sparingly, fine-tuning its position within an environment that is already carrying it. The outer surface of the bell is smooth and thin. Below it hangs a fringe of tentacles and, in some species, larger oral arms. These structures appear delicate, but they are densely equipped with stinging cells. Each cell is a tiny capsule containing a coiled thread and a droplet of venom. When triggered by touch or certain chemical cues, the capsule opens and the thread shoots out, anchoring to whatever it has contacted. The mechanism is pre-built and waiting, so no conscious decision or central signal is required. Because the body is so lightly built, energy demands remain low. There's no need to pump blood. Nutrients and oxygen can diffuse directly through tissues or move in simple internal currents as the jellyfish pulses and water flows around and within it. Food captured by the tentacles is moved toward the central mouth, broken down and absorbed into surrounding tissues. The distance between where food enters and where it is needed is small. With so little solid matter to maintain, modest meals can sustain the animal. This design also reduces the cost of growth and repair. To become larger, a jellyfish does not need to assemble heavy structures. It can expand the volume of mesoglea and extend its tentacles, adding more cells to a framework that remains mostly water. If parts are damaged, new tissue can form along simple patterns without rebuilding intricate organs. The body is not designed to resist strong impacts or crushing forces. It is shaped to avoid needing that protection. When currents become too strong or conditions unstable, many jellyfish simply drift with them or sink to calmer layers below. Inside the jellyfish, there is no single place where decisions are made. A loose web of nerve cells runs through the bell and along the tentacles, a nerve net rather than a brain. Each cell can receive signals from its neighbors and pass them on, forming patterns of activity that spread through the body. When the water is disturbed, when light changes, or when something brushes a tentacle, ripples of electrical activity move through this network. The result is simple but effective. A pulse of the bell, a slight turn, a tightening of tentacles. Coordination emerges because many small reactions are linked together. Around the edge of the bell, many jellyfish carry clusters of sensory structures. Some include light-sensitive cells that detect brightness and direction, allowing the animal to sense where the surface is by comparing light from above with dimmer water below. Others contain balance organs in which tiny dense particles settle under gravity, signaling which way is down as the jellyfish tilts. These signals do not form a detailed image of the world. Instead, they provide just enough information to adjust orientation and depth, keeping the animal within layers where light, temperature, and food are suitable. Along the tentacles, the nerve net lies close to the stinging cells. Each capsule is ready to fire when mechanical and chemical cues match living prey. When contact occurs with enough force and the right chemical patterns, the thread shoots outward. Nearby nerve cells detect this and spread activity along the tentacle. If many adjacent regions are stimulated, waves of contraction move inward, drawing the captured organism toward the central mouth. No decision is made in the way we usually understand it. Cause and effect are tightly linked at the level of cells and local circuits. Swimming is governed in a similar way. When sensory structures detect tilting or fading light, they trigger waves of activity that circle the bell. These waves cause the circular muscles to contract in sequence, producing a smooth pulse. Stronger stimulation brings pulses closer together and the animal moves more actively. When conditions stabilize, the rhythm slows. The system operates on simple rules. If stretched, contract. If compressed, relax. If light decreases beyond a threshold, pulse upward more often. From these rules, coherent movement emerges without a master signal. A jellyfish cannot rapidly invent new behaviors, solve complex problems, or store detailed memories. Its reactions are tuned to gradual, predictable changes. The slow shift of light with depth, the steady pull of gravity, the passing of small organisms through its tentacles. Yet, in the open ocean, far from sudden obstacles, this is often enough. The jellyfish does not need to interpret meaning. It only needs to link the right stimulus to a useful response. From a human perspective, the absence of a brain can look like a weakness, a step backward on an imagined scale of complexity. But the nerve net also frees the jellyfish from the energy demands and vulnerability of centralized control. There's no single point of failure. As long as the physical rules of water, light, and gravity hold, the same simple circuitry can continue to function. The more interesting question is not how much this animal cannot do, but why this limited way of coordinating life has proved so durable. To answer that, we have to move beyond the individual drifting in front of us and into the long history of the oceans. Only by looking at jellyfish across hundreds of millions of years can we see why such a modest system has endured while many more intricate designs have appeared, flourished, and disappeared. Long before the first forests covered the land or large animals walked along ancient shores, soft-bodied creatures drifted through the oceans. Among them were early relatives of today's jellyfish, simple, gelatinous bodies carried by currents. Feeding on tiny particles and small swimmers, The rocks do not preserve their forms in fine detail, but the traces we do have suggest that organisms built on this general plan have been present for hundreds of millions of years. While countless others' lineages appeared, experimented with new shapes, and vanished. This combination of a bell, tentacles, and a nerve net remain recognizable. Jellyfish occupy a different position. Their bodies require little energy to maintain, and they do not depend on precise interactions with a specific habit. As long as there's water to support them, small organisms to feed on, and room to drift, the basic jellyfish design can work. Many can tolerate wide ranges of temperature and salinity. Their life cycles often include stages that can disperse widely or persist in a resting form near the seafloor, waiting for conditions to improve. All of this makes them less vulnerable to abrupt changes. Mass extinctions in Earth's past removed large fractions of species in relatively short geological periods. On land and in the sea, many of the animals that disappeared were those with complex bodies and narrow rolls. The fossil record suggests that while specific jellyfish lineages would have been affected, the broader group persisted. Their simplicity does not protect them from every threat, but it makes them less exposed to the collapse of particular food webs or the loss of specific habitats. When ecosystems reassembled after each crisis, jellyfish or jellyfish-like animals were still present. From the outside, this history does not look dramatic. There are no clear turning points or sudden leaps in complexity. Jellyfish have not become the largest animals in the sea, nor the fastest, nor the most cognitively sophisticated. Their success is measured instead in endurance and continuity. They show that evolution can favor strategies that minimize commitments, low energy requirements, flexible tolerance, and a body that demands little from its surroundings. When we look at jellyfish against this backdrop, the question shifts. Instead of asking why they never became more complex, we can ask why complexity has so often been fragile. Many organisms that capture our imagination today rely on stable climates, intact habitats, and intricate food webs. Jellyfish ask for less. They can fill gaps when ecosystems are disturbed and remain when conditions swing outside the ranges preferred by more specialized species. This perspective brings us back to the present day. In many coastal regions, jellyfish are no longer just quiet presences in the background of marine life. At certain times of year and in certain places, they appear in dense blooms. Clouds of drifting bells that can clog fishing nets, overwhelm fish farms, and block intake pipes of coastal power plants. Swimmers may encounter stretches of shoreline where the water seems thick with tentacles. These events feel sudden and disruptive, as if jellyfish are invading spaces that do not belong to them. In reality, they are responding to conditions that now favor their strengths. Several human-driven changes can create those conditions. Overfishing removes many of the fish that compete with jellyfish for plankton or that feed on their young. Nutrient-rich runoff from land combined with warming surface waters can lead to low oxygen zones where many fish and invertebrates struggle. But jellyfish can still function. Coastal structures such as piers, harbors, and artificial reefs provide new surfaces where the small polyp stages of jellyfish can attach and wait for better times. None of these factors guarantees a bloom, but together they shift the balance toward organisms that tolerate stress and use simple, flexible life cycles. When a bloom occurs, the effects ripple through the local ecosystem. Jellyfish consume large quantities of plankton and fish larvae, potentially reducing the number of young fish that survive to adulthood. Their waste products and decomposing bodies feed bacteria and other scavengers, which can further influence oxygen levels and nutrient cycles. In some situations, these feedbacks may help hold an ecosystem in a new state in which fish are scarce and jellyfish are common. It is not that jellyfish choose to take over, they simply fill the spaces left open when more demanding organisms are removed. From a distance, it's tempting to treat jellyfish as symbols of decline. The reality is more subtle. Jellyfish are not newcomers. They've been part of marine ecosystems for as long as animals have existed in the sea. What has changed is the context. As we alter temperatures, nutrient flows, and the structure of food webs, We create oceans that, in many places, look more like the disturbed, variable environments in which simplicity has always done well. In the end, the jellyfish does not teach us how to dominate the ocean. It teaches us how little dominance may matter. For hundreds of millions of years, long before complex brains, rigid skeletons, or elaborate behaviors appeared, bodies like this have endured. They've done so not by controlling their surroundings, but by asking almost nothing from them. Carried by currents, supported by water, guided by simple rules, the jellyfish persists where more demanding forms of life often fail. As the oceans change, this quiet strategy becomes easier to overlook. We tend to measure success in nature by size, intelligence, or power. But the drifting bell and its trailing tentacles suggest another measure entirely: endurance without excess. The jellyfish is not a mistake. It is not an accident. It is a solution shaped by an environment that rewards restraint as much as innovation. In a world that often equates progress with complexity, it stands as a reminder that survival does not always belong to those who build more, but sometimes to those who require less. And as long as the oceans continue to move, carrying light above and darkness below, life built on simplicity may continue to drift between them, quietly outlasting designs that once seemed far more advanced.